Okay, so then let me quickly repeat. So to present the new approach, so we did now the exercise on the current period and the past. Um, so what we want to change is more the how than the what. So what we want to keep doing is still harmonize templates, still harmonize guidance, maybe go further and harmonize procedures, harmonize new products as you indicated, like maybe program templates, but we want to kind of change the how. So how we did this in the past, and hopefully there with this improve also a bit the process. Um, so also what we will keep doing next to harmonizing the templates is that we want to use still the same classifications, but and we want therefore also to be more data driven. So we also want to make sure that your agreements and the agreements made in the group are also data driven, so that we have a data driven approach. Um, so in terms of classification, we still want to use the classification that was done in HIT. So in the old templates, we used to have color coding. This we still want to do. So blue used to be guidance. You might be already fully familiar with this, of course. So this was information that was given to explain what the purpose was of this section and what the logic is. Then there was gray, which were the core fields, and the core text, kind of the mandatory part. Yellow highlighted was optional, and then italic were input hints. So you see all of it here on the page. So input hints are, for example, put the title here, automatically generated number, etc. Things for more for systems and for users to actively manually put in. So what is now the difference of core fields and optional fields? Also, this we do not want to change too much. Core fields were considered critical by HIT. Ideally, a majority of programs want to adopt them and use them. That was the thought or the core behind core fields. And what was then meant with that? Strictly legal requirements. So fields mentioned in the regulation. Mandatory core, which are fields that are required to register data that are mandatory. So basically, if the regulation states that you need to record the output indicators and the achievement towards output indicators, we understand core fields, mandatory core fields, also, for example, the possibility to record outputs, which is not literally in the regulation, but you cannot monitor an indicator if you don't have the outputs itself too. Also, conditional core, this is also still considered core. This was sometimes a bit confused or mixed up in the old HIT. So that is basically because sometimes we noticed that they were marked in yellow, even though they should have been gray. But this means basically fields that are mandatory according to the regulation in certain conditions. So for example, a state aid section, it is required by the regulation that if a partner is state aid relevant, that they have to do a self-assessment of state aid. Or investment fields. If a project has investments, then they are required to fill in the investment section. Of course, if they are not state aid relevant or if they do not have investments, then those fields are kind of hidden. But so they are mandatory in certain conditions. So that type of fields should also still be mandatory and part of core. And then optional fields are all those yellow fields, and they are considered to be not essential for HIT, but we acknowledge that they improve the program's performance. So still, as a HIT program society doing HIT, we consider optional fields still relevant, but they are not per se required for everyone. Then additionally, what we want to record as well to be more data driven is also to work with a document called non-HIT agreements. HIT was already doing this sometimes. So we had sometimes, for example, in the budget section, there was a separate tab, agreed to take out or agreed to not do. But we want to have somehow in a more structured way, a document what tracks consistently what was agreed not to do as a community, because those things push for simplification and for harmonization. So they are actually things that are quite relevant for HIT, to know also things that we don't do, practices we do and practices we don't do. So that's why we also additionally would like to record those things, and we also will make sure that that document will be public together with the HIT templates, so that it's clear also that there were clear agreements not to do something. So then what do we exactly want to improve in the process? So what we want to try to do, and we'll hear from you if we achieve this, hopefully with this new approach, but what we want to do is to be more transparent, more data-driven. We want to use more the expertise and the existing groups that we currently have. So there are also thematic networks and groups in Interact working on specific topics, and we want to kind of empower them. We want to be more inclusive and democratic, so also not so basically allow all programs to join and make decisions in HIT. And we want to make, ideally, of course, Interact stronger as a community. So by us all adopting HIT as much as possible, we would become stronger as a community. So what we, how would this work then in practice? We are planning basically to look at these thematic groups and create HIT groups where possible based on this thematic focus. Then those groups, what we require them, so they will also be led by our Interact colleagues who are the experts on certain topics. The requirement for these groups is that they should have at least one standardized HIT meeting for all programs in the group. So it can be that if they address a certain topic that it could be done relatively fast, and maybe with one meeting things are harmonized. And it could be that it's based on an existing group. So if the performers group would be a closed group, I mean, we have now a public group on the indicators and the intervention logic, but imagine that there's a closed group, then we would force them to have at least one meeting with all programs where they can harmonize together. So it should be public for all of you, and everyone should be able to contribute to the HIT process. Then after these groups have worked, we hope that there will be a clear HIT outcome, which would then be thematically focused. And then we will organize HIT consolidated meetings where if programs cannot join these groups, they can join this consolidated meeting to discuss at higher level the progress of HIT, so how far HIT is going. So how this would visually look, it's kind of more a funny picture, but still it explains it quite well. So we used to work template per template, first addressing with the core group the application form template, then going through the assessment template, then the contracting, reporting, and closure, following the project lifecycle. How we would like to do it now is that, for example, now there is a performance-based group working on the common understanding on the intervention logic, that once they start harmonizing, that they will form a HIT group, and they will work on the intervention logic throughout the entire thread. So they will work on, at program level, what the intervention logic should look like, what the fields should be in the application form, how they should be assessed in the assessment templates, and through the entire flow up to reporting and closure. So how you also report on the indicators, etc. And then, for example, there could be other groups too on budget, on co-financing, and there can also be new groups that will work on this flow. And then we, Alexandra, Jose, and I, together with US programs, of course, would try to match all the puzzle pieces together and still produce in line the templates. So we would still try to get the application form done first, try to see if all those puzzle pieces fit together. So this will be our challenge, to make sure that everything makes sense together, to have links between the groups, and form the templates this way, so that also topic-wise, the thread from beginning to end through the project lifecycle will make sense. So then for the standardized meeting, What will this look like? So we will, so these subgroups will then organize, or these hit groups will organize the with the experts also from the program. So you can also send the people relevant on the topic. So you can send your experts on the intervention logic directly to the hit group on the intervention logic. And you can also send colleagues who are focused on finances to a finance meeting. So you can send the right people to the right groups to make the right decisions. And then the standardized meeting is then this mandatory requirement. And we will try to make this as standardized as possible so that you will understand as soon as you're in this hit meeting what the purpose is of this meeting. So it will be open to all programs. We will come with a standardized agenda with a similar approach. So you also start by getting into these meetings, understanding what the purpose is, what steps there are logically. There will also be standardized tools. So if we for example, would launch surveys or other things, this will all be done always in the same way. And also there will be a standardized way of collecting feedback and harmonizing. So it will basically, this session should run in a similar way every time, of course, focusing on a different topic, because in a different group, you are looking at a different topic and a different thread through the project lifecycle, or any other topic you could come up with. Then these hit consolidation meetings. So these are then, we will see if we do them more frequent or less frequent. Our aim for now is to do them biannual. It will be meetings where we try to present the overall progress of HIT to see how far HIT is in terms of progressing through the templates and through the harmonization. It will be the place where you can also see the work of the HIT groups coming together and present it as one. And also interim results of these hit groups will be presented there. So if you go there, you will be updated. And if you cannot join all the subgroups, you'll be updated there, and you will also be able to provide your opinion there at a higher level, basically. Then then a rough timeline. So this is very rough. Let's see if we can manage this, but it's just an indicative thought looking at what has happened in the past. So as you know now, Interact Plan, well, should be here soon, or the Implementing Act, but we are still in that phase. However, we would like to start already as soon as possible with some of the first things. We try to basically split the application form logic, or the project lifecycle logic, in 3 chunks. So in 2026, let's see if we can manage this. We ideally would try to get as far as possible to get into the lifecycle that we have the application form template more or less harmonized. Then in 2027, we would like to get to partner reports being submitted. And then in 2028, ideally, we would do the rest. That is a very rough timeline. What is of course important, so we currently, as said, we have the draft regulation, hopefully this year fully there. Final regulation will then be by end of 27. We also expect that monitoring systems will then be able to start developing already next year. So that also in 27, monitoring systems can start with basic program logic, and ideally also already developing part of the application form and the call management, etc., so that they can logically follow the flow of HIT. So our aim is also, as the kind of core team of HIT, to overlook this timeline and try to get this delivered in the right time. Then a bit about communication, because we can of course imagine that if there are many subgroups, that you need a clear central point where you are informed. So for us, this is Teams. This is where we will update you on all HIT activities. So we expect that there, all the information for the relevant HIT groups will be there. Every event will be announced. So every HIT event that will take place will be announced there. You are allowed to register because everyone is welcome in the HIT meetings. All the working documents will be published there. And also final agreements and surveys, etc., will also be there. We are currently working on setting up the Teams platform. If it's a channel or a team, we don't know yet, but we are working on setting this up. As soon as it's ready, we will send it to you. We will aim to send the link to sign up together with the evaluation link of this event. Then, of course, we also have our website. So our main purpose there is to, of course, inform about HIT. There is already a web page for the new HIT under post 27. What is important here is that here we will provide you with a list of all the HIT groups that exist and also the events that will contribute to HIT. But the actual work will be mainly done in the team's place. Also, as we did before, all the final HIT packages will be public on our website and downloadable. And we will also make sure that the link to Teams is also on the website so that you can register there. And so basically that is the thought that we have and the idea for HIT. So maybe after presenting that, are there any questions to this new approach? Anyone who would like to express what their opinion is, how they feel about this? Or do you still need to let it sink in? Okay, Oana?
Yeah, sorry to maybe spoil the mood here, but if you can go back to the slide a bit with the timeline, because my major concern here is that time is running out. Because you know, we do have the 15 key requirements in next programming period, one which is similar to key requirement 10 and one which is similar to key requirement 69, referring to the electronic system, reliable blah 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 system to ensure this communication between the program and project beneficiaries. So this here project reporting, which is supposed to, I mean, well, I know we don't have allocations for 2028, but my expectation would be that we will have a system audit, I don't know, early prevented or whatever kind of system audit for the system we are setting up in post 2027. So maybe we can consider having this project reporting done in the system a bit earlier than 2028. I know it's a lot to ask to think about until that time, but I just wanted to point out that the key requirements are very similar to what we have now, and that at least our auditors have taken a great interest in the system. I am sure we will just modify GEMS and we will simplify and work on it, further adaptations. But yeah, just be mindful of the timelines. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Anna. Yeah. Basically, you know, looking at the timeline, we are now already in 26. so we will of course try to go as fast as we can. What we obviously want to say as well is that with these groups can work in their own pace. So ideally, a group on intervention logic is not producing the application form logic in 26 and then waiting till we are done in 27 and continuing. They would continue for having chain of meetings and ideally go faster. So that would be ideal, that if they manage to go further through the entire flow, it can be that some groups will go faster than others. But yeah, we hope that the complete template is there by then. And yeah, if we can do better, we'll be very happy. But you see that already being in 26, it's already quite ambitious. And we just try to be a bit realistic. And also knowing that monitoring systems, I mean, the redevelopment of monitoring systems also takes time. I don't know. We can talk about that in the monitoring system network to see how other monitoring systems are also planning their work. Yeah. But thanks for mentioning this. Okay, Simona.
So if you can go back to these groups, working groups or how you call them on previous slides, because I'm just wondering why to separate the group that is working with the intervention logic from the group dealing with the project impact. Assessment is absolutely linked to the application form. So I don't think a person that doesn't know the application form knows how to make assessment criteria, because the assessment criteria is based on the information that is requested in an application form. So from my perspective, I don't think this should be separated to have so many groups, because program management is it's not so much fragmented on groups and so on and so forth. Additionally, I don't know what about the also reporting is connected to the application form. So for me, these are all connected. In the past, when it was HIT, I don't think it was a bad idea to have them all together, because it was one HIT working group working on everything and having an overview on the entire project cycle management. So now you might end up having people dealing with the application, other people with assessment, other people with budget co-financing. The resources of the programs are limited as well, because we are not so many people in an MAJS or in a JS to go to so many working groups. I don't know about the others, but I think this is it is too fragmented from my point of view to work like this, and we will lose the connections at some point.
I mean, maybe the hit groups mentioned here, they were an example. So it's not that we will per se have a group on project impact, just to tell you that, or on budget. We still have to see how we define the groups. We will make sure that, of course, these groups are not so connected that they should work together. And the logic is as well, so the idea is still basically with these groups that thematically a group working on the intervention logic, right now there is a network for the intervention logic, a working group on the intervention logic, that they will work through all the templates. So they will work through application form assessment, contracting, reporting, closure, looking at the entire intervention logic. And not, for example, then at topics that they are not per se having to work on. So maybe project communication, there would be another group to work only on the communication aspect, or a group on territoriality. There's also a group working on territorial impact, etc. So that is kind of the thought, but it kind of depends on the groups that we define and the groups that exist currently. And the idea is also that our colleagues who are experts, who have been working several program periods on the intervention logic, will be there to guide you on the harmonization of the intervention logic. But still that at the horizontal belt, so this horizontal belt, that will basically be our task to make sure that the entire packages, so parts of the package are added to the application form, and that we make sure that the entire templates will be ready at the right time.
But it also doesn't mean that you cannot send the same person to all those groups, basically. This is a way to structure the work somehow, but you can still name only 3 people who, like one content person and one finance person, or one communication person, who then join the groups and coordinate among the 3 who does what. So you're free to join as you think it's best for your program setting. And as Peter explained before, maybe then you don't need to go to every event related to intervention logic, but there will be points when really the HIT templates will be discussed. And then if you want to work on the HIT templates, then you go to those meetings, which might be mainly online, where the Interact colleagues will be already bringing some common understanding that was developed, for example, in this intervention logic working group, and then shape the template. So you can also decide to how many meetings you go and what are the ones where you can have the most impact without having to spend too many resources on this process, basically.
And ideally, we want to not create too many new groups. We want to ideally use existing networks and existing groups that we already have within Interact. But of course, if some topics are not covered by anyone, we will have to establish something new. But other than that, we want to not create a whole bunch of new groups. Example, again, the intervention logic. There is an existing group working on the intervention logic. They will at some point be pushed to continue harmonizing and going further than just understanding the intervention logic and the new regulation. So that is basically the idea. Magdalena.
Yes, I just wanted to support what Simona said already. So I think in the past period, this was a main advantage to have one core group, and this ensured that the red line, the whole process, I would say. So I just see some problems if it is separated too much and there are too many different working groups working on the specific topics, that at a certain point of time there are many overlappings with different discussions ongoing, and I think it's just challenging for you. So just to be aware that I think this process that was followed in the previous period really had a lot of advantages, even if it was not that easy for sure. And I understand that we already have now the thematic working groups, and it makes sense to make use of them. It might not be that easy to have at the end a consistent set of results then, and there might be some overlaps, and also the process might not be that efficient as it could be if it is really one working group processing the whole process from the very beginning up until the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Agnieszka?
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot for preparing and for figuring out how to organize the whole heat process for the future period. I think that the new setup, it will be extremely challenging for you. I mean, Interact, because only now, at least I know that there are two existing working groups. The one working group is on the intervention logic, and the other one is on PBA. And you know, it is not possible to talk about PBA or intervention logic in two separate groups, because this is connected. So if you are going to set up the system in a way that intervention logic is discussed in one group, PBA in another group, and at some point I think that new working groups will be created, working on indicators, on costs, on audits, whatsoever. You know, we have a set of different working groups which would require some loops, because PBA group has to know what is going on in the intervention logic group. Then the group working on indicators, I don't know, in future, it is not possible to chop the teams into separate kind of groups. And then on top of these processes, we would need to harmonize processes and templates. So frankly speaking, I am here a bit with Simona and Magdalena. I don't know, maybe this is a working progress. So maybe we would need to see how it works, and if it will not work, we would need to adjust the system, because at the moment, you know, it is a bit complicated. It seems that it is a bit complicated system, and I'm wondering how to ensure a very good communication between the separate groups working on separate topics, and on top working on harmonizing templates. Either it will be a huge effort for you in order to, as I said, ensure these loops, these communication loops, that one group knows what is going on in the other group, or I don't know, we will have a set of groups working on different topics, you know, not linked very well one to another. And as I said, at least in our program now we have two groups. and it is our internal work, to communicate what was happened at the meeting in Munich, working on the intervention, and how to translate the ideas developed in Munich into PBA working group. So working group, focusing on PBA, how to approach PBA in our program. So yeah, I don't know, maybe this is because this is a novelty, so usually novelty raises some concerns, how it will work. Maybe it can work very well, but I would like also to highlight that if in such a setup, you would need to coordinate it in a very good way in order not to lose the overall picture being chopped into, these small processes.
No, thank you, Agnieszka. That's exactly why also the three of us will be focused on that, me, Alexandra, and Jose, because this is crucial. And also to make for you clear, that's why also we want to set it up in teams, ideally, have a proper structure where you can also follow all the groups and see what happens. So ideally, we want to have it very clearly structured so that also it's clear what's happening between the groups. And on top of that, we will organize meetings, these kind of consolidation meetings. You could more or less see them as the traditional HIT meetings, basically on top, where we go through the templates one by one and work with the, not from scratch, but work with what has been done in those groups. And maybe before America, Daniela and Bestiana are here from the intervention logic people who are working on the understanding. I think, Dani, you wanted to reply, I guess, right?
Yes, I fully understand your concerns, and these are also our concerns. BBA is a new approach for all of us, and it's a work of process. It's something we do step by step, and in each meeting, as you, Agnieszka, as you correctly said, we learn something new. We are internally also coordinating so that one group knows what the other one is doing. We are one group. And as we also said on Friday, we are now sitting together and revising internally our work plan to come up with a consolidated roadmap for you. What kind of events are upcoming? Who should be there at this meeting? And then I think the basis is we need to have a common understanding, as we said, how the processes look like. And only then we can start with looking at HIT. So this is the challenge we have now compared to the previous period, that there is not one way. So there will be lots of different ways, upper level to lower level, different projects and so on. So we try our best to come up with a roadmap, and then you can decide also in which meeting you would like to be part of it and which not. But first, we need the common understanding before we talk of it.
And maybe just to add that from our perspective, this was also a bit of a weakness in the previous process, that not all groups and colleagues who were actually working on certain topics were then involved in the HIT group and decisions. So basically, for example, Dani always worked on topic of indicators, but she was not so much involved when the indicator part was designed in HIT, and later it turned out that there are certain shortcomings, for example, that you cannot detect duplication in the indicator counting and so on, because first of all, the templates came maybe too early to know this issue, and also it was sometimes a bit of a parallel work in thematic expert groups and in the HIT core group, and this is what we want to really now avoid, that parallel groups discuss something and then HIT doesn't have the full picture of the expert knowledge that was already generated. So the main purpose of this now is to continue in this funnel, basically, without losing the upper layer of all the knowledge that was already generated through the work so far. So this was one risk we wanted to avoid with this type of setup, basically.
Thank you, Dani and Alex. Amerike, you wanted to? No? Okay, then Peter.
Yeah, I just was thinking about and partly agreeing with Simona. However, I would translate it to my understanding that that these thematic groups not even necessarily would be called hit group on intervention logic or hit group on project impact and budget and so on. But these groups are just taking hit discussions on their own agenda, and then they discussing their own bubble, so to say, which would be, yeah, of course, we want to avoid creating silos and etc. But they would discuss specific topics, and then hopefully the same person, or at least some of the same persons representing these groups, these thematic groups, would join to the HIT consolidation meetings, as you said. I don't know how frequent you will be able to organize this. That's another question, because it might be very heated discussions, as my humble experience showed at certain periods. So I think if we think the other way around, that these thematic groups already existing, actually, as you said, taking hit-related discussions on their agenda, and then kind of clashing their ideas, not clashing, but discussing their ideas with other groups in a consolidated meeting or meetings, then might be a good way forward.
Okay, thank you. I took some notes. So as far as I got also what Simona, Magdalena, and Agnieszka said, what I think is also crucial, what I got from you three, is that we also really clearly think, and this is also what we're trying to work on the what the groups are next to, like how many there are, how big they are, make sure there's not too many overlaps, and look at the existing networks again, and making sure that we are not over bombing you with new groups and new work. And I think this is also quite a good point. And then yeah, and then from Peter also, yeah, to make sure that these IT groups take then their discussions on their own agenda, and then that they bring it into this consolidation meeting somehow in a structured way. Okay. Any other points? And we know, of course, looking at the timeline, this was clearly what Oana said, also what you said in the beginning. It's a you see now also that it's a challenge, that clearly starting in 26, when we don't even have the draft implementing act or Interact plan out, not having so many new topics like PBA and reforms and I don't know what else we can name, having a big deregulation, it's going to be a challenge to get to the same hit that we have, and especially also keeping the time. But we try to show in this image that it is important, because otherwise we will also not be in time with monitoring systems and other solutions. Tadej.
Yes, Peter, thanks. You mentioned the monitoring system, and a question from my side is also, will Interact continue with this monitoring system, common monitoring system like GEMS and EMS before? Is there a decision or a wish to continue or not? Because it's really unclear at the moment if the programs have to start to do it on scratch, or will be there a continuation with the GEMS or something else.
We have the PO of GEMS here, Jose.
Unfortunately, we cannot say officially that GEMS will happen. You know, we don't have that data now, but there's a strong willing, I would say, for many programs. We are listening from everyone, and I think, as far as I see, it's likely that will happen, and that's all I can say. And if it will happen, you will for sure will know ASAP, and we have channels for that if you follow GEMS or so. It's going to be a huge announcement. You will not miss it. Thanks.
Oana?
Following this last intervention, I will start with the end. So none of this makes any sense, speaking about HIT, if we don't have GEMS. So let's assume we will have GEMS. And I would also like to focus on what we have, Peter, because we have a lot. We already have a draft intervention logic for the program, or several versions of it. We already have a very strong, solid base for HIT from the current programming period. So even if it's 2026 and this working group has just started, or several working groups, I don't know, I don't care. We can find many strong arguments, pros and cons, whatever it's doable in your workload, it's fine with us. As long as we agree that those of us who are attending these working groups are committed to it, stick with the deadlines, and actually providing input as per Interact requests. So yeah, dedication, and let's keep the optimistic here. We have a lot. Thanks.
Yes, thanks. That is actually also why we think we could go this way, because I think if we had nothing and we didn't do it before, I don't think this solution would have been possible. So, but yes, let's stay positive. And indeed, dedication in these groups is very important. I mean, the people who were in the HIT core group know this, how much work HIT is and how much time it requires from you. So yeah, it's clear that that time and dedication and effort is needed to be able to come to any harmonization. Agnieszka?
Yes, I would just like to advocate for having HIT process even without having EMS system. So I don't agree with Anna here that if there is no EMS, the whole HIT process doesn't make sense, because we are not using EMS and still we see a lot of value in HIT templates. So I would like really to highlight, not to simplify the process, that Peter, we were talking about it in our group. Our program is not using KIEMS, and we will not be using KIEMS in future, but still we are very much into the HIT process, and we would like to work on harmonized templates, in particular keeping in mind the new PBA approach, and also the new approach of from the Commission that they don't want to standardize a lot of things. So as we said, because they don't want, we have to prepare,
make sure that the entire
tools in order to make our life easier. So I strongly advocate for HIT process to be separated a bit from EMS system. They are two separate things, and HIT should also be of use for programs that are not using EMS.
Nicely said. I agree. I think HIT is mandatory for GEMS, so GEMS cannot be there without HIT. But the other way around is not per se true, because HIT is still one of the most crucial things to make sure we all work in the same way. And even if you have different software, at least you have a same understanding and the same way of working, which makes us strong as an Interact community. Peter.
Yes, thanks, Peter. Do I understand that PBA, using at a lower level, will be a separate thematical group, or how should I see PBA in the whole the way we will talk about PBA, how it should be implemented at a lower level? How does it fit in the structure you presented? So if you clear that.
It depends what you speak of in PBA. I mean, now we are going into brainstorming, because I have shown you what we have so far. So we are currently working on defining those groups, and we have not fully defined them yet. But just to brainstorm with you, and also looking at what has been done on the indicator so far, for example. So the intervention logic is also considered more or less performance-based. And I think, or at least my understanding is that for regular projects and performance-based projects at lower level, the intervention logic will be probably applying to both. So for both of them, there will be a similar solution. How that then works with the financial part, yeah, it might be that we most likely we will need two solutions there, depending what programs will do and depending also what the implementing act will bring. Because if it tells you somehow that you're forbidden to go the old way, which I doubt, I don't know, then of course things will change. But that kind of depends first on the regulation, and then we can see in HIT what we need. Do we need two types of projects at lower level or not? Will this mean two groups? Will it only be an impact on how the way projects are budgeted? So do we only two thematic groups only on budget and the rest could maybe be one group because the content part stays the same? I mean, this is all we don't know, I would say, right now.
Thank you.
Dani?
And one final,
just one short sentence to that. So first, we now try to figure out how does we have a rough idea, how does the intervention logic look at program level? And what we started discussing now is like, how is the program level connected to the project level? And there are different scenarios. And then when that will become clearer, then we can answer your question, I think. And then we will look at what does that apply to upper level, lower level, and how will that need then be reflected in the application form. So it's a work in process.
Thank you.
And I think it also was nice what Agnieszka said, that probably this process is also very agile in the sense that we try to start like this, and then we will see if there are additional elements needed to ensure that the coordination between groups works very well. So we cannot see everything, how complex the whole process will get, depending on how many options there will be for programs and so on. And depending on this, I think we will then also take measures to ensure that our HIT process is efficient. And we will then do this as a group of colleagues here in Interact to discuss how this can work best with all of the colleagues who are actually working on topics that are affecting HIT, and with US programs, and then probably take some adaptations and improvements on these procedural steps that are needed.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And we also hope that this way we might be able to go faster with some things that might already be clear now. Like looking, for example, at data fields on partnership organizations or procurement. I don't know, some topics that maybe are already in the regulation because the data fields are there. Maybe this kind of topics can go from beginning to end and already be harmonized and be ready with those templates on the what the data is that needs to be gathered for a partner in the application form and in the reporting. But maybe other things take more time because performance base is not clear yet. So maybe we are, thanks to this way, able to go faster with some things and at least have something in a certain time. Okay, thank you very much. Also, don't hesitate, of course, if you want to let this sink down and you have thoughts on this, don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time. We can still always talk about this. It doesn't need to be just now. Yeah, and our top priority is to get teams working for you so that we can set up the groups and have the communication clear. So as soon as possible, we will inform you. We will also send it to everyone who was in this event, how to get into this new HIT environment in Teams so that we can make sure that the exchange is going properly in the groups and between the groups. And as we already said, of course, we will slowly work on those groups and they might be added as we go, not saying per se that all groups will be there by default.
There's a question about the GEMS user group meeting in the chat. If it will be in before summer. I think this was what we had announced in the last user group meeting.
Yes, there will be. I mean, there will be a GEMS user group for sure. We were thinking about June, but we are still deciding. Maybe it will happen after summer, but not so much after. It's still not final. I will let you know. I will let
Some
MES teams as soon as I know. It's
And
gonna
also,
be. I can also confirm that is back to back. I think that's what Peter wants to say with the IT monitoring, IT tools and monitoring systems network, and most likely will be in France. That's all we can say at this moment. Or Peter?
no, exactly. I wanted to make sure that the non-GEMS users are also addressed.
But the idea would basically to do it at a point of time when probably we also can already think about the future and post 27. So this is why we are now considering to shift it to autumn, basically, when also maybe we have first results from HIT and we can discuss about monitoring system implementation.
Exactly.
Perfect then. Thank you very much. Any last questions, last points before we close? No, then thanks a lot for all your contributions, also in the breakout rooms. Also now, all the feedback, we made a lot of notes. We will also reflect on all of this and hope to also bring your feedback forward in the proposal. And we will keep you informed because as we showed with the timeline, with this kind of kickoff, the start, and we hope that we get HIT rolling as soon as possible.
Good. Thank you then, and I will see you in the new MES team channel then from HIT, right, Peter?
Yes.
Good. All right.